Jonathan Lehr, co-founder and general partner of Workbench. Blood, sweat, and tears is how we raised our first dollar. It really is a situation where my co-founder Jess and I didn't know what we didn't know. We set out to raise an institutional enterprise VC fund, and fortunately, here we are today. We did it. December 2018, we announced a $47 million fund that we raised with a great group of partners. But along the journey, we really learned a lot because we had never raised for a venture fund before, and it really is thanks to a lot of mentors that shared everything from insights, best practices along the way to frankly even introductions. And getting those warm-vetted intros played a key role in just helping us navigate how to tell our story and how to raise that financing. So we were originally targeting 40 million, and the great exciting news for us is after a little bit of a bumpy start where again, we didn't know what we were doing at all, we started getting the story down pat, we started getting momentum, and once we hit that 40 mark, there was still interest in people to get involved. So we ended up setting a time limit for ourselves that, hey, we'll spend another couple months on this, see what else we can bring in. And we ended up at that 47 million mark. The good news is for this year, we are not fundraising. Jess, the team, and I are all heads down, working on sourcing new investments, working with the existing portfolio, and just staying engaged in this awesome New York enterprise community that we're part of. Without sounding cliche, it's not that we necessarily chose the path, but based on all of our past lives in corporate IT, it's one of those where it chose us in a way. All of us are pretty unique on the team at Workbench in terms of being venture capitalists with our backgrounds coming from the corporate IT world. So for instance, I used to work in IT at Morgan Stanley in a pretty unique role in the office of the CIO, where I was tasked with meeting hundreds of startups a year, all the big Sand Hill Road venture capital firms, and really trying to figure out which of those startups could we do business with as vendors, which would give us a competitive edge in the market. The big thing though that I noticed and that Jess saw in her past life, Vipin and Kelly saw in their past lives is that too many enterprise startups are very transactional in nature, and they would go after the Morgans of the world, the Bank of Americas, the Goldman Sachs, and all the rest of the big Fortune 500, but not have any customer empathy. And that was basically a huge issue that was going on. So what we saw was really this opportunity to flip the existing model on its head. We were in New York, we're looking around, why is there no enterprise fund here focused on things like cloud native infrastructure, cybersecurity, machine learning, when you have 52 of the Fortune 500 up and down the subway line? So for us, we viewed that as an opportunity to really flip the model on its head and really start by engaging with the corporate community to bubble up what are the key pain points that are going to attract budget dollars and really just top of mind interest from these corporates to engage with the startup community. And that gave us a leg up to change the model, work with the leading startups, and add value to both sides. So our mantra at Workbench is a fun one. It's that great things happen at the intersection of suits and hoodies. And if you actually walk into our office and you see the column right when you walk in, that vinyl, that slogan is right there. And really it's what the ethos of what we do. It's by bringing together corporates and startups through Workbench that we're able to grow the enterprise ecosystem here in New York. And that's critical because too many companies that come from the West Coast or even abroad to sell here in New York, it's very transactional. You're here on a trip, you have a meeting, let's go, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch. But things like customer empathy come into play where people don't even ask what are the problems you're trying to solve. They're too busy telling their own story. Through the 200 events a year that we host at Workbench and the various corporate engagement activities, the roundtables that we organize for corporate executives, it's really about leading first with value and creating environments where that startup executive can talk to the corporate executive and just get to know the person. You know that they'll be at that meetup the next week so you can continue the conversation. You know that if an initiative is 3 months out, you can talk to them and just get to know them and get insights into their organization during that time period without having to really try to just push that sale. And frankly, that rush process doesn't even work anyway. Who am I? That's a loaded one. First and foremost, I'm a happy father and husband. I have 2 little boys. My wife, Michaela, has been supportive throughout this whole journey. We kind of laugh, but Workbench itself, Jess and I call it a startup in of itself, because we put in, as I mentioned, the blood, sweat, and tears to get us here. So we have the joint life of being investors, but also just running Workbench as an organization. And we want this to last for the long haul. So in that process, we're startup founders also. And I'm a teammate, I'm a son, I'm very into playing basketball. My perspective continues to evolve in this industry. At Workbench, we're now 5.5 years old. This summer will be 6. And it's amazing the way that most of our team comes from the corporate IT world. So we've been learning venture as we go. We've been trying to change the game as we go. But while we're learning this existing venture ecosystem and simultaneously trying to change it a little bit in terms of the enterprise VC model, the macro industry is changing too. You have SoftBank deploying billions of dollars, which is making the tier 1 mega funds change how their strategy works. And what really gets us excited on a daily basis is that things never stay the same. You're continually changing, but you also have to stay focused. So it's kind of that juxtaposition of continually learning how people have done this for decades, try to eke out what are the best practices we should emulate. But where do we bring our own little spin to things, our own flavor, based on our perspectives that are frankly very different in the venture industry? And that's what keeps it so fun every day when we come to work. Everything that I've mentioned is a strength of ours, this enterprise focus, our corporate IT background, being here in New York City next to the customers, that's both our strength, but also in the early days, a perceived weakness. Because most enterprise investors have been on Sand Hill Road, questions in the early days from LPs, from startup founders, from even other VCs is, why are you in New York City? What are you doing there? It's a consumer town. And we always knew that New York was poised to break out, not just for having the buyers here, but also for all of the startups that were going to grow in close proximity to them. And here we are 5.5 years later, very proud that that story rings true. When we launched in July of 2013, really the only game in town you could point to on the startup side for enterprise was MongoDB. Fast forward several years, Mongo is a public company. You've got very late stage companies like Datadog, DigitalOcean, and plenty of others that should be IPOing in the near future. You've got a whole slew of others that is way too long to list in this video, that are growing, that have raised tens of millions of dollars of financing. And we're really proud of ourselves that we kind of spotted that trend early. We got behind it. And while some people said, enterprise in New York, that's not going to be a thing, we bet hard on it and we're able to capitalize on it now. First and foremost, it's our team here. It's my co-founder, Jess. We've been through the trenches together. So much of VC today and why a lot of partnerships fail is just partner dynamics. And Jess and I have the battle scars that prove we've been through thick and thin between fundraising, growing this firm, dealing with all the shenanigans of launching an enterprise VC fund. But we came out of the other side so much stronger. We have our colleagues, Vipin and Kelly, who bring their own special personalities, their own perspectives, their own expertise, and together we're such a strong unit that's so collaborative. And candidly, that's very different than a lot of the other firms out there in the industry today. The other key person in this story is my wife, Michaela. I mean, when you hear me talking about some of the rough patches of fundraising and just learning how to play the game, how to pitch to investors, how to do something new in the venture ecosystem, and have it not be viewed as a huge risk, Michaela helped me between sitting down at dinner and talking through strategies to helping out when we needed an extra hand on something. She actually works in the startup world in a finance role, so we're very much a great partnership together. So I'm not the first one to say this, but I think that we need diversity in the community, and more than just saying it, I'm really proud of us at Workbench for taking action. Jess has spearheaded a ton of initiatives under the Womenterprise umbrella, which is, we always come up with fun phrases here, women plus enterprise. Not anything unique, but we do things like Navigate, which was a 300-person conference dedicated to women in enterprise. We did that in partnership with Salesforce Ventures. We host different women lunch events that bring in senior executives to talk to more junior people that are earlier in their careers. We do different profiles to get the word out. And we're really at all of our events. Again, we host over 200 meetups a year. We're very active in terms of sourcing speakers and promoting to attendees from just underrepresented backgrounds, because if you don't start with that groundswell from a community perspective to try to make a difference, I don't think that you really can. What's next? So this year, what's really nice is we're heads down focused on deploying this fresh powder, as they say. We put in a lot of work to raise the fund, and we're looking for early stage enterprise founders to work with, to partner with, to help support their go-to-market, which is really the most laser-focused value add that we can offer them. And frankly, it's the biggest thing that's missing in the ecosystem today from the bank. I'm here because I view it as such an intellectually stimulating challenge. I mean, I get to first of all work with the best and brightest people on my team, and we just sit down all day laughing. And it's because, yes, we're obviously getting work done, but I work with such good people, it makes it fun every day.